December 8, 2005. The Feast of the Immaculate Conception. Carlo Acutis knelt in his family's home chapel at 6:00 a.m. praying before a statue of Mary. He had been awake since 4:30, unable to sleep, feeling an unusual pull to pray that he couldn't explain. His mother found him there hours later, still kneeling, tears streaming down his face, writing frantically in a journal he kept hidden from everyone. When she asked what happened, Carlo could barely speak. Finally, he whispered, "She was here, Our Lady was here, and she told me the secret." What secret? What did the Blessed Virgin Mary reveal to a 14-year-old boy about her Immaculate Conception that was so profound it left him shaking? What truth about this central Catholic doctrine did heaven need to communicate through a teenager who would die less than a year later? And why is this message, documented in Carlo's private journal and confirmed by those closest to him, only now being understood in its full significance? What you're about to discover will transform how you understand the Immaculate Conception, not just as a feast day or a doctrine to memorize, but as a reality with explosive implications for your spiritual life right now. The Blessed Mother's message to Carlo wasn't primarily about theology or history. It was about power, about spiritual warfare, about a weapon that every Catholic has access to, but that most have never learned to use. And here's what will disturb you. The enemy works overtime to keep Catholics ignorant about the Immaculate Conception, specifically because understanding it correctly gives you access to protection and victory that demons cannot withstand. What Mary taught Carlo that morning is exactly what the evil one doesn't want you to know. Hit that like button immediately if you're ready to understand the Immaculate Conception in a way you never have before, and subscribe right away, because this revelation could change your entire approach to spiritual warfare. Turn on notifications, because missing this teaching could leave you vulnerable to attacks that this truth would prevent. Before we dive into what Mary revealed to Carlo, we need to understand where he was spiritually in December 2005. He was 14 years old, less than a year from his death, though he didn't know it yet. He had been attending daily Mass for 7 years. He was deep into his Eucharistic Miracles project. He had developed an intense devotion to Our Lady, praying the Rosary daily and visiting Marian shrines whenever possible. But Carlo had been struggling with something that he confided to his spiritual director. He felt like he understood the Eucharist deeply, but the Marian doctrines remained somewhat abstract to him. The Immaculate Conception especially seemed like theological technicality rather than lived reality. He believed it was true because the Church taught it, but he didn't understand why it mattered so much. Why did the Church make such a big deal about Mary being conceived without original sin? What practical difference did it make? Carlo prayed specifically about this on December 7th, the day before the feast. He asked Our Lady to help him understand her Immaculate Conception, not just intellectually but spiritually, to show him why it mattered, to make it real to him. Heaven's answer came at dawn the next morning, in a way Carlo never anticipated. Drop a comment if you've ever asked for understanding about a doctrine and received it in an unexpected way. Your testimony might encourage others to ask heaven for the same gift. According to what Carlo wrote in his journal immediately after the experience, and what he later shared with his mother and spiritual director, he was kneeling before the statue of Mary in his family's chapel when the atmosphere in the room changed. He described it as feeling like the air became charged with electricity, but peaceful rather than threatening. He felt compelled to close his eyes, and when he did, he saw light even through his closed eyelids. Then he heard a voice, not audible in the normal sense, but unmistakably real, feminine, gentle, but powerful. "Carlo," the voice said, "open your eyes and look at me." Carlo opened his eyes, and the statue of Mary was no longer just a statue. He described seeing Our Lady as if she were physically present, radiating light, her beauty so overwhelming that he couldn't look directly at her. He wanted to speak but couldn't. She smiled at him with what he called a mother's smile that contained all the love in the world. "You asked to understand my Immaculate Conception," Mary said. not just to know about it, but to understand why it matters. I've come to answer your prayer, but you must listen carefully and remember everything I tell you. What I'm about to reveal will help not just you, but many who come after you." Carlo nodded, still unable to speak. Then Mary began teaching him, and what she revealed would completely transform his understanding of her role in salvation history and in spiritual warfare. Share this video immediately if you're feeling the weight of what's about to be revealed. Someone in your network desperately needs to hear this message about the power of the Immaculate Conception. Mary's first teaching focused on why her Immaculate Conception was necessary. When God created humanity, she explained to Carlo, He intended for you to live in communion with Him, free from sin and death. But sin entered the world and broke that communion. Every human conceived after the fall inherited that brokenness. Original sin wasn't just a personal failing. It was a wound in human nature itself that was passed from parents to children, generation after generation. Carlo wrote that he already knew this basic theology, but Mary continued. But God had a plan from the beginning to restore what was broken. He needed a human being who could cooperate fully with His plan of redemption, someone who could carry the Savior without the barrier of sin separating her from Him. That's why He preserved me from original sin at the moment of my conception. Then Mary revealed something that struck Carlo deeply. My Immaculate Conception wasn't a favor for me. It was a necessity for you. God didn't exempt me from original sin because I was special. He did it because you needed someone who could be the new Eve, who could reverse what the first Eve did, who could cooperate with grace so perfectly that salvation could enter the world. She paused, then added, "This is the first thing I need you to understand. My Immaculate Conception was always about Jesus and about saving humanity. It was never about exalting me. It was about preparing a worthy dwelling for the one who would save you all." Carlo understood intellectually, but Mary wasn't finished. The reason the enemy hates the doctrine of my Immaculate Conception is because it proves that God's power can overcome sin completely. I am living proof that human nature can exist without sin's stain. I'm evidence that grace is more powerful than original sin. Satan wants people to believe that sin is unavoidable, that everyone is hopelessly broken, that nobody can truly be pure. My Immaculate Conception destroys that lie. This insight hit Carlo like lightning. He had never thought about the Immaculate Conception as a weapon against the enemy's lies about human nature. Mary was living proof that sin doesn't have to win, that grace is stronger, that God's power can completely overcome the effects of the fall. But Mary's second teaching went even deeper and became more practical. If you're still watching, you need to subscribe to this channel immediately. We reveal truths that transform spiritual warfare from confusing theory to practical victory. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Carlo, Mary continued, I need you to understand something about invoking my Immaculate Conception in spiritual battle. When you call upon me under this title specifically, you're not just asking for my prayers. You're invoking the full power of grace that preserved me from sin. You're calling upon the reality that sin has no claim on me whatsoever. Then she revealed the key principle. The enemy has no authority over what is completely free from sin. Satan can tempt, he can attack, he can harass, but he cannot touch what is truly pure. My Immaculate Conception means that darkness has absolutely no foothold in me. None. And when you invoke me under this title in spiritual warfare, you're placing yourself under the protection of that purity. Carlo wrote in his journal that this revelation was like understanding a weapon he'd possessed all along but never knew how to use. Mary continued, most Catholics know about the Immaculate Conception as a doctrine. They know the date, they know the definition, but they don't understand the power. When you pray, Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us. You're not just reciting words. You're invoking supernatural protection that demons must flee from. She then taught Carlo a specific prayer practice that he began using daily and that he taught to others before his death. When you face temptation, when you sense spiritual attack, when you feel the enemy pressing against your soul, immediately invoke my Immaculate Conception. Say, "Mary, conceived without sin, through the power of your Immaculate Conception, protect me now. Cast the enemy away from me. Cover me with your purity." Mary explained why this prayer is so effective. The enemy must flee from the invocation of my Immaculate Conception because he is confronted with the reality of grace triumphant over sin. He is forced to acknowledge that God's power broke the chain of original sin in me, and that same power is available to protect you. He cannot stand against that truth. Comment below if you've ever used the Immaculate Conception as protection in spiritual warfare, or if this is completely new to you. Your response helps others understand how widespread this ignorance is. But Mary's third teaching to Carlo became even more specific about daily application. She told him that devotion to her Immaculate Conception wasn't meant to be limited to December 8th, but should be a constant reality in every Catholic's life. When you wake each morning, Mary instructed Carlo, offer your day to Jesus through my Immaculate Heart. Specifically, invoke my Immaculate Conception as protection for that day. Say something like, "Mary, through the grace of your Immaculate Conception, protect me from all sin today. Guard my eyes, my ears, my mind, my heart. Let no sin find a foothold in my soul." She explained that this daily consecration creates a spiritual shield that the enemy struggles to penetrate. Your consecration to my Immaculate Conception is like putting on armor each morning. You're placing yourself under the protection of perfect purity. You're aligning yourself with grace rather than sin. This doesn't make you perfect, but it gives you access to supernatural help in resisting temptation. Carlo asked Mary why more people didn't know about this. According to his journal, she responded with sadness. "The enemy has worked hard to make devotion to me seem optional or excessive. He's convinced many Catholics that honoring me takes away from Jesus. But the truth is opposite. Devotion to me always leads to him. And devotion specifically to my Immaculate Conception gives you access to protection that makes living for Jesus much easier." Then Mary revealed something prophetic about Carlo's own mission. "You're going to die young. You already sense this. Your life will be short but fruitful. Part of your mission is to help people understand the Eucharist, and you're doing that work already. But another part of your mission, one you haven't fully embraced yet, is to spread devotion to my Immaculate Conception as spiritual protection." Carlo wrote that this revelation shocked him. He had never thought of himself as having a Marian mission specifically. But Mary continued, "After your death, people will pray to you for intercession. Many will ask you to help them grow in faith. When they do, you'll lead them to the Eucharist, but you'll also lead them to me, and specifically to understanding my Immaculate Conception as their protection." This prophecy has proven true. Many people who develop devotion to Blessed Carlo Acutis report that he leads them not just to deeper Eucharistic faith, but also to stronger Marian devotion, particularly to understanding and invoking the Immaculate Conception in their daily spiritual battles. Like this video and share it everywhere if you're seeing how Carlo's mission from heaven connects to Mary's message to him. Your sharing could protect someone from spiritual attack. Mary's fourth teaching to Carlo focused on the connection between her Immaculate Conception and the Eucharist. This connection was crucial because Carlo's primary devotion was already Eucharistic. "Do you understand," Mary asked him, "why my Immaculate Conception was necessary for the Eucharist to exist?" Carlo didn't immediately understand. Mary explained, "Jesus received his human nature from me. His body, the same body that hangs on every crucifix and becomes present in every Eucharist, came from my body. If I had carried original sin, that stain would have complicated the redemption in ways that would have required different means." She continued, "But because I was preserved from all sin, I could give Jesus a human nature that was completely suitable for his divine purpose. I could be the ark of the new covenant, carrying him without defilement. and the body he received from me is the same body you receive in every communion." Then she made a connection that Carlo found stunning. "When you receive Jesus in the Eucharist, you're receiving the body that I gave him. Every time you go to communion, you're connecting to my Immaculate Conception in a mystical way. The purity I had because of my Immaculate Conception touches you through the Eucharist that came from my womb." This teaching integrated Carlo's two great loves, the Eucharist and Mary. He suddenly understood that they weren't separate devotions but intimately connected realities. You can't properly honor the Eucharist without honoring Mary's role in making it possible. And you can't properly understand Mary without seeing how everything about her points toward Jesus. Mary's fifth and final teaching to Carlo that morning was the most practical. She gave him specific instructions about how to live out devotion to her Immaculate Conception in concrete ways. First, she said, celebrate December 8th with joy and seriousness. Don't let it be just another holy day. Make it a day of consecration, of renewed commitment to purity, of thanking God for the grace of my Immaculate Conception. Second, wear the Miraculous Medal. You know the story of how I appeared to Saint Catherine Labouré and gave her this medal. The words around it say, "O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to thee." This isn't just jewelry. It's a sacramental that carries the protection of my Immaculate Conception. Wear it. Encourage others to wear it. Third, pray the Rosary while specifically meditating on my Immaculate Conception during the joyful mysteries. When you pray the Annunciation, remember that the angel was greeting someone completely free from sin. When you pray the Visitation, remember that Elizabeth was blessed by encountering perfect purity. Let these mysteries deepen your understanding. Fourth, teach others about this doctrine. Many Catholics have heard of the Immaculate Conception but don't understand it. They confuse it with the virgin birth. They think it's about me rather than about God's grace. Explain it clearly. Help people understand why it matters. Fifth, and most importantly, live in purity. My Immaculate Conception doesn't just protect you from demonic attack. It's also a model for how you should live. I was preserved from all sin. You're called to resist all deliberate sin. Ask for my help in this. Invoke my Immaculate Conception when temptation comes. Live as purely as possible in a world that celebrates impurity. After giving these instructions, Mary's presence began to fade. Carlo wanted to ask more questions, wanted the encounter to continue, but he understood it was ending. Mary's final words to him were, "Remember everything I've told you. Write it down. Share it when the time is right. And know that I'm always with you, especially when you invoke my Immaculate Conception. You're protected, Carlo. You're loved. And your mission will continue long after your death." Then she was gone. Carlo remained kneeling, crying, overwhelmed by what he'd experienced. When his mother found him hours later, he was still processing it all. Over the following weeks, he shared portions of the experience with his spiritual director and his mother, but he kept his detailed journal hidden, marking it clearly that it should only be read after his death. Carlo died on October 12, 2006, just 10 months after this encounter with Mary. During those final 10 months, those closest to him noticed a deepened Marian devotion alongside his Eucharistic focus. He talked more about the Immaculate Conception. He encouraged people to wear the Miraculous Medal. He prayed differently, often invoking Mary's Immaculate Conception for protection. After his death, when his mother read his journal and found the account of the December 8th encounter, she understood so many things about those final months that had seemed mysterious at the time. Carlo had been living out Mary's instructions. He had been preparing for his mission that would continue after death. He had been spreading devotion to the Immaculate Conception in subtle ways that would bear fruit later. Subscribe to this channel right away if you're understanding the Immaculate Conception differently now. We provide teaching that transforms doctrine from abstract truth to lived reality. Don't miss what's coming next. So what should you do with Mary's message to Carlo? How should this revelation change your spiritual life practically? Let me give you clear action steps. First, make December 8th significant in your spiritual life. Don't let it pass as just another holy day. Make it a day of renewal, of consecration to Mary under the title of her Immaculate Conception, of recommitting to purity in all areas of life. Second, get a Miraculous Medal if you don't have one. Have it blessed by a priest. Wear it as a constant reminder and protection. When you put it on each morning, pray, "Mary, conceived without sin, through the grace of your Immaculate Conception, protect me today." Third, use the invocation Mary taught Carlo in spiritual warfare. When you face temptation, when you sense demonic oppression, when you're struggling with sin, immediately pray, "Mary, conceived without sin, through the power of your Immaculate Conception, protect me now. Cast the enemy away from me. Cover me with your purity." Fourth, educate yourself and others about the Immaculate Conception. Too many Catholics are confused about this doctrine. Learn it clearly. Teach it accurately. Help others understand why it matters. Fifth, connect your Eucharistic devotion to Marian devotion. Understand that these aren't competing focuses but complementary realities. Every time you receive Jesus in communion, remember that he received his body from Mary, whose Immaculate Conception made her a fitting vessel for God. In the comments, commit to one specific action based on Mary's message to Carlo. Will you get a Miraculous Medal? Will you start invoking the Immaculate Conception in spiritual warfare? Will you study this doctrine more deeply? Write it out and create accountability. The Virgin Mary's message to Carlo about her Immaculate Conception wasn't just for him. Through him, it's for all of us. We're living in times of intense spiritual warfare. We need every weapon heaven provides. The Immaculate Conception isn't just a doctrine to celebrate once a year. It's a reality that gives us access to protection against the evil one. Understanding it correctly changes everything. Invoking it regularly shields you. Living according to its implications transforms your pursuit of holiness from impossible burden to grace-enabled reality. Carlo received this message less than a year before his death. He used it. He lived it. He shared it. And now, through his intercession from heaven, he continues leading people to deeper understanding of both the Eucharist and the Immaculate Conception, the two mysteries that defined his short life. May you receive the same grace of understanding that Carlo received. May Mary's protection through her Immaculate Conception shield you from all evil. May you live in the purity that reflects God's original intention for humanity. And may you discover that the Immaculate Conception isn't just theological doctrine but practical weapon, loving protection, and constant grace available to every Catholic who understands and invokes it. The secret Mary told Carlo isn't secret anymore. It's revealed for you for this moment, for the battles you're facing. Use it, trust it, live it, and watch as the grace of the Immaculate Conception transforms your spiritual life from struggle to victory.